Let us look at drawing this half section drawing in CAD. Now studying this thing, if I look up a little bit closer, I see again, it looks like offsets and circles and trim are going to be my best friends again. So I think I'm going to start with the top view. When I get a little bit of that laid in, I'll go down to the front view, the half section view. Alright, so top view, I'm going to have my ortho on to start out with, just so I don't mess up. And again, I like to use F8 to turn it on, but you can push this button also. Okie dokie. So I'll just draw a line. Some length or other. And it looks like we are 3/4 of an inch on each side of the center line. So I will get an O for offset, and I will enter 3/4 of an inch, and I will just make a couple of lines right there. Okay, now let me make my center lines on each side of the... So what I'm saying is, this is all about center lines, getting these slots and holes in here. So I'm going to start now with the center line at the very middle of the part. My ortho is still on. There's my very center, and it says, first of all, we are 1 3/8 offset, 1 3/8. We are 1 3/8 from that center to the middle of those slots, and then what? We are 2 inches on each side of that center to the very outside of the part. All right, there's my beginning outline. Now what? I think I will do these slots next. That's going to get me oriented. And what is happening here? Those slots have a radius of 3/8, and they are right here where these center lines intersect. So I've got the circle command. I'm going to click there, and my AutoCAD is talking to me, and it says specify radius. In this case, that is exactly what I want, so I'm going to type 0.375. Okay, now I'm going to put the same circle on the other side. I just hit the Enter key, and my circle command came up again. I want to be careful that it's looking for the perpendicular, or that is probably dangerous. I'm going to do Shift right mouse and make sure I do get the intersection. Click. Circle, specify radius. Looky there, it has remembered the radius I entered before, so I can just hit Enter, boink, and there's my slot. Now, a smart person, which I may not be, a smart person would probably just make one side, slow down, would just make one side of the part and then mirror it. I think that will save a little bit of time. So I am going to do this. Zooming in, I'm going to make my slot, so L, enter, and I'm going to get close to my circle until I see the quadrant O snap light up, and then I'll come over here till I see the perpendicular O snap light up, and I'll do the same on the bottom. If I did not have the quadrant O snap, I would come over here and turn it on. All right, now I'm going to trim a bit. TR for trim. And here, this part is not too complicated yet, so I'll just hit Enter to select all lines as cutters. And now I can cut what it is I want to trim. You can see that because I selected Enter to select all lines as cutters, I will have to take an extra step here to cut out both sides of the circle, and an extra step here, and so some of this is a little bit tedious, but no problem. Then I would like to make a good-looking center line here. So this might be overkill, but what I like to do is I like to temporarily make a circle to use as a trimmer, then trim. This blue line is going to become my center line. So TR for trim, and I'll use my temporary circle as my cutter. Enter. And now when I click trim this, what's going to be a center line, it cuts right to that temporary circle I had, which I can now erase. And now I can move these two lines, and this line, onto my center layer so I'm looking professional. Okay. On these corners, it says there is a 1/16 inch radius on each corner. Why don't I be cool and go ahead and put that on right now? So that's the fillet command. Right now I used the chamfer last, so the fillet is hiding under the chamfer. Fillet. Don't select first object. We don't know how big the radius is yet. R for radius. And my radius is 0.063. Enter. Now I can select object. Select, select. Oh, nice. And I'll hit Enter to bring up that command again. It still remembers what my radius setting was, so now I can just go ahead and click those two lines. And, well, what I'm hesitating about is I don't like having, I'm going to mirror this thing, trim. I'm going to use my, dadgummit, TR for trim. Select my center line as my cutter. Enter. And trim and trim. What I'm muttering about is I don't like having a half line here and a half line on the other side. Okay, there's half of my part. And what I am going to do now is mirror, or MI for mirror. I'll just use a right crossing window, and that's fine, except that it also crossed my big old center line, so I will hold the Shift key and click that big old center line to unselect it. So now everything but the big old center line is selected. It's still giving me a chance to select more, but I'll hit Enter to accept. Select first point on mirror line, second point on mirror line. There we go. Okay, now what? Maybe this would be a good time to go down and start putting in my front view. So please allow me to do some temporary lines. My ortho is on, which makes this safer. I got some temporary lines here. And now let's see what we've got. This plate on top, you have to look around a little bit. According to this, that plate is 1/4 of an inch thick. And then according to this, from the underside of the plate down is another 2 3/4. And I just realized I made a mistake on our PowerPoint with the depth of the hole. So I better correct that as we are drawing. So this top plate is 1/4 of an inch thick. So there's one line, offset 0.25. There's my plate. And now I'm going to do the depth down here, offset 2.75, enter, from the underside of the plate downward. That's the bottom of my part. Okie dokie. And this round thing here is 1.5 inches outside diameter. You know what? I'm going to, let me extend my temporary center line here. I'm going to offset on each side of this center line. Half of 1.5 is 3/4. Watch this. Specify offset distance, 0.75. Offset on this side, offset on this side. There's my pin. And now I can trim. I'm going to use this as my cutter. This is my cutter. There, I'll make it clean. Trim, 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 trim. Looking good. Okay. Oh, and how about this? Trim again. For my cutters, I'll do a right crossing window to select these two edges of that top plate. Enter. Now I can trim, and it will just trim cleanly right to that top plate. All right. Now this thing here in the middle is going to be a center line. And I'd better get that changed to a center line right away before I forget that's what I'm doing with it. Alrighty. Might want to move these views a little bit farther apart. Okay. Now what? Here's where I messed up on our PowerPoint slide. According to this, our hole is 2.5 deep from the very top of the plate. So I wrote that it made that bottom thing 1/4 of an inch thick, and that's wrong. So 2.5 down from the top of the plate. Let's just put that in right now. Offset 2.5 from the top of the plate down is going to make this a distance of half an inch, I think. Yeah, half an inch. So that was not good. And maybe the fastest way to do this is to draw the circle in the top view, diameter 1 inch, and then I can run lines down from there. That's sort of a fast way. Lines from the quadrant of that circle down, and from the quadrant of that circle down. Now, in my half section, I'm going to see these lines. Over here on this side, I'm not going to see those lines, am I? There are no hidden lines in a section view. So let me just get that one out of there right now. And let me trim this guy. Trim back to here. Just because I don't trust myself, I might accidentally leave it in there. Okay. Let's come back in a minute and see what else we got.